Valeria Quintina is 19 years old, standing beneath a saffron veil heavy with the scent of her mother's tears. The fabric presses against her face, muting the sounds of laughter and celebration echoing through her father's house. Until this morning, she was a daughter, protected by her father's authority, living within walls she had never needed to fear. By sunset, she will belong to another man. She wears the tunica she wove with her own hands, her hair divided into the 6 traditional braids of a Roman bride. Around her waist is tied the knot of Hercules, a symbol of chastity and submission, a knot only her husband is permitted to untie. Every detail of her appearance marks the end of who she was. Her husband is Gaius Servilius Capio, 41 years old, a widower with wealth, status, and a need for an heir. She met him once. His gaze had not been cruel, but it had been empty of concern. She understood then that she had been chosen, not desired. Her mother adjusts the veil and speaks softly. The words sound like comfort but carry the weight of warning. You must endure, you must survive. Whatever happens, it will be over by morning. Valeria seeks out her Aunt Cornelia, a woman who married young, was widowed early, and refused to marry again. Cornelia does not soften the truth. Roman marriage is not companionship. It is ownership. A wife's body belongs to her husband by law. Consent does not exist. Resistance brings punishment. Cornelia teaches survival. Appear willing. Do not provoke anger. Make yourself useful. Bear sons. Manage the household well. Become valuable enough that harming you feels inconvenient. Roman marriage is service, and survival depends on learning how to serve without being destroyed. Cornelia explains how Roman law gives a husband complete authority, how a woman's suffering is invisible to the courts, how silence is enforced not by kindness, but by inevitability. She explains that many women break on their wedding nights not because the pain is unbearable, but because the meaning of that pain is. The realization that one's body is no longer one's own alters something fundamental, something that cannot be repaired. Valeria listens and absorbs every word because knowledge is the only weapon she will ever be given. When she returns to the feast, her face is calm. Inside, she is already changing. The sun begins to sink. Torches are lit. At sunset, she will be taken. The wedding procession winds through Rome's streets, blazing with torchlight and music. Guests shout crude jokes meant to normalize what is coming, turning fear into entertainment, violence into tradition. Valeria walks beside her husband, each step carrying her further from her former life. She notices the faces in the crowd, women watching with expressions she now understands, men watching with knowing smiles. At his house, she is lifted over the threshold. Roman brides never enter on their own feet. They are carried, reenacting the ancient truth that marriage begins with taking, not choosing. She is set down inside as property delivered to its new owner. Rituals follow. Fire and water are given to her. Offerings are made to household gods. She is shown storerooms, kitchens, slave quarters, spaces of labor that will define her days. She speaks the ancient words, "Where you are Gaius, I am Gaia." Her name dissolves into his. Her past dissolves with it. The bedchamber waits. Flowers and incense soften a reality that cannot be softened. The pronuba removes her veil and outer garments, leaving her in the tunic her husband will remove himself. The older woman waits outside, listening for sounds that signal completion or crisis. When Gaius enters, he does not pretend romance. He inspects her carefully, clinically, as one inspects livestock or land. He unties the knot. He claims what Roman law says belongs to him. Valeria does not resist. She makes herself still. She endures pain, fear, and humiliation in silence, focusing on survival, on breath, on the certainty that it will end if she does not fight it. What happens is not unique. Millions of Roman brides experience the same claiming. The details differ. The reality does not. A woman who belonged to herself in theory becomes property in practice. When it ends, her husband leaves without tenderness or apology. She remains alone on the bed, aching and changed, aware that nothing in her life will ever be untouched by this night. The wedding night is over. Her marriage has begun. Morning comes. She washes herself, dresses in matron's clothing, and steps into a household that now depends on her labor. The housekeeper greets her with recognition, not sympathy. You survived. Learn quickly. Make yourself indispensable. Valuable women last longer. Marriage becomes an education in endurance. Valeria learns her husband's moods and patterns. She learns when to speak and when silence is safer. She learns when to appear grateful and when to disappear into usefulness. She manages the household efficiently, mastering accounts, supplies, discipline, schedules, and the delicate balance between cruelty and control that governs enslaved lives. She discovers that authority over others is the only sanctioned form of authority Roman women are permitted, and even that authority exists at her husband's discretion. She learns to wield it carefully, avoiding displays that might provoke resentment or jealousy, rewarding loyalty quietly, punishing disobedience in ways that preserve order without attracting attention. She builds quiet alliances with slaves and neighboring women. Knowledge passes between them in whispers, during visits to shrines, at births, at funerals. Stories are exchanged, warnings given, strategies refined. Women speak in fragments, never directly naming what must not be named, yet understanding one another perfectly. Pregnancy comes, bringing both danger and opportunity. Childbirth kills many women, but a son secures status. Valeria understands that her body is now both weapon and liability, a site of power and risk that she cannot refuse to occupy. She survives labor after hours of pain and blood and fear, guided by midwives whose hands carry centuries of accumulated experience. She gives birth to a boy. Her position shifts immediately. She is no longer only a body. She is the mother of an heir. Her husband looks at her differently, not with love, but with recognition. He grants her small privileges that would have been unthinkable before: additional servants, greater authority over accounts, fewer intrusions into her chamber. These changes are not gifts, they are investments. Years pass, more children are born, each pregnancy risks her life. Each survival strengthens her position. Her husband ages. His authority weakens as her competence becomes essential. She controls the household completely, shaping daily life in ways invisible to outsiders. She becomes the memory of the house, the keeper of routines, the person without whom nothing functions smoothly. She learns that power in Rome does not look like freedom, but like indispensability. She helps other women prepare for marriage, passing on the same survival strategies once given to her, teaching them how to endure without disappearing entirely. She counsels mothers who fear for their daughters, offers practical instruction rather than comfort, because comfort does not save lives. She learns that influence travels along invisible paths, through favors owed, through obligations remembered, through gratitude quietly banked over years. When disputes arise between households, she mediates. When a woman disappears after childbirth, she ensures the children are cared for. When a husband grows violent, she arranges interventions disguised as business or religious obligations. None of this is recorded. None of it is praised. It is simply done. When her husband dies, Valeria is 41. For the first time since her wedding night, her body belongs to herself. The relief surprises her with its intensity, a loosening she had not realized she had been holding for decades. She never remarries. Freedom matters more than protection. As a widow, she controls her property, her movements, her time. She moves through the city without permission. She chooses when to eat, when to sleep, when to open her doors. She expands the network of women she has supported for years, offering shelter, food, advice, introductions. She funds dowries for girls whose families cannot, knowing that poverty makes marriage more dangerous. She becomes the woman young brides seek out before their weddings, the woman mothers trust to tell the truth they cannot speak aloud. Her life is not celebrated in monuments or histories. Rome records the deeds of men, not the endurance of women. But her impact lives on in the women who endure because she taught them how. Valeria was not exceptional, she was ordinary. Her story is the story of Roman marriage. Roman weddings were not about love, they were about ownership. The wedding night was not a beginning but a claiming, a legal and physical demonstration of male authority. This system did not end with Rome. Its logic survived for centuries, shaping laws that denied wives the right to refuse within marriage, shaping cultures that treated women's endurance as virtue and their suffering as silence. Legal codes inherited Roman assumptions. Religious doctrine sanctified them. Social custom enforced them. Generations of women learned the same lessons Valeria learned, often without an aunt to explain them, often without preparation, often without survival. This history matters because it is not distant. It is recent. It is unfinished. The echoes of the Roman wedding night persist wherever consent is assumed rather than asked, wherever marriage is treated as entitlement rather than partnership, wherever women are told to endure rather than to be free. Rome tried to bury this truth beneath ritual and tradition and celebration. It survived anyway, carried quietly by women who refused to forget, who passed knowledge hand to hand, voice to voice, generation to generation. Now it is remembered.